Thank you. Uh, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get started here. Just give me one more minute. Well, hello.
Yes, I didn't hear it. Well, that Slack too, but then we wanted me to mention that if you haven't paid, please pay. I don't know if any of y'all went to the town hall, Oklahoma Town Hall, but the moral of the story is we don't have any money. Yeah. All the grants and things they used to get, they're not getting the whole. All those webhubs you pay, not sending you millions back? So,
Why are you fighting with me? Mhm. All right.
I do this stuff. People out there. I think
Yeah, no, trying to. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let's see if it's gonna work.
so.
Okay.
That's all.
No, I guess not that easy. I already have it. Let's see. That's it. I'll just type.
You're looking for 22?
Uh,
You're looking for 22 or 24?
yeah, I mean, okay. Oh, okay. Never mind. Okay. Um,
No question? I do.
okay.
Oh.
No, you're fine. Fine.
It's always been kind of like,
It's just what I was thinking of, not something, but still. Yeah, so. He said. We're having that so maybe it's you know, so that. It's big, it's rolling to it's after it's right, it makes the.
it makes it something cool.
It makes it on folder,
Yeah.
that's why. People can see the shit run, yeah, so you got.
Yeah, you gotta see the end of that folder.
You guys keep the folder, or if you just, it's makes out of the legs. Move that folder. So bottom.
You're still gonna have this, like a repo, that you made, you can have some folder, and so whatever you create, is gonna make it folder.
They should. Create the folder, within, very, so, right, I gotta figure it out. So. I would, create that. I do not make this so.
No, that's just what it does, because it's creating that whole package, right, or that whole, project.
So you got the CP and the CP is on profit, there's still some, and so we're having the CP into mix. Jesus says that we're having all that together.
Yeah, so anytime you start a GitHub, it's gonna make your buzzword folder, so when they skip the final file. And then when you do, you know, blah, 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 create next or React or whatever it's creation, it's gonna create a folder. And then all of them have that. Yeah, so every time we, you know, we do your GitHub, pull it down, and then blah, 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 then CD right into that.
Also, you use the same on order, mix.
So if you're opening, are you opening just your like module 5 repo? Then you should be in that folder too, so only have to CD one time, goes to your project, so see.
But
Yes, right now you're in module 5, so we don't see that. So if we do LS, just see next J instead. So you can take it like this and see the end of that guy.
that makes sense, yeah. The probably show her all the time, the times were already. And the phone.
Yeah, it is confusing. Now you can help. So to verify you're in, once you do that LS, as long as your package JSON clear, you're in the right spot. If you don't see that package JSON, then your npm spell stuff's not gonna. It's gonna work, it's just not gonna work inside here where you want.
But you know, still had that, see nothing, but yes, yeah. I remember this, it was a weird thing. Like, I guess this one didn't have a poll, I don't know.
No, that shouldn't be done. This is that one. Oh, there.
You say what?
How's it going?
It's going. It's pretty good. How's it going for you?
Pretty good. Here's the best. For conference. Football.
Oh, yeah? Staying busy, huh?
Well, some work teaching, but I ended up having to do with work. I found out.
Oh, yeah?
It was good. It's not something. Oh, God.
Well, that's good. I'm happy to hear that at least.
Probably, Finish the query game, I did not finish that part. The 4 chapters of the next year is less than.
Oh, the
They say it's homework.
Okay.
I finished the SQL.
You did the SQL work. Okay, I got you. Oh, I forget what day we're gonna be doing the actual some SQL practice, but you're gonna get a lot of good practice with the game. What do you think about the game?
Oh, I can tell you. Made it seem simple. But I
Yeah.
doubt it's gonna be that simple.
It,
Yeah, like that.
that part of it, I would say is simple. That's probably the simplest part of SQL. It can get complicated, but like using the queries and all that stuff, but um it usually comes down to like what software you're gonna be using, what product, because you know, there's a few different things that use SQL. There's like MySQL, um so yeah, that's Postgres. Um, I can't think of them all off of my head, but yeah,
There's a lot of.
there's a lot of them. So some that have similar names, where it gets a little confusing, but
And like every proprietary software has their own version of it too.
yep.
So,
Okay, do we have any questions about the homework or any questions in general?
Get this set up. But I'm sure we can get the practice class, so.
Yeah, the homework it's gonna have you building a little example app as you go through. So you're gonna do that. And then in class we're gonna be working on we're basically just gonna do one project for the entirety of this module, which as discussed last time, is gonna be your portfolio project. So we're gonna be working on our portfolio this module, and then we're gonna incorporate the things we learn from this module into building our portfolio. So that's gonna be pretty much the basis of it. Originally, I was just gonna get you started on the portfolio and let you do it from there, but I figured it would still be good practice just to focus on the portfolio, because you can still implement a lot of things that we're gonna learn into your portfolio. And then it'll just be good to have. All right. So we can go ahead and jump in. So as we discussed, Next.js is a React framework, and what it essentially does is simplifies React for us, right? With React, you've seen that we had to go and we had to manage routing on our own, and there was a lot more that we had to do to configure a React application to be ready to go. With Next.js, it does a lot of that work for you. So it has its own routing system built in, so you don't have to go out and get another package just to be able to use to be able to route your application. And I would say I really like Next.js's routing system. It's a file-based routing system, so it automatically creates your URL path based on your files and how you set it up. So that's going to be something that we're going to go over today as well. And then the server-side rendering, React does a lot of yeah, so the React does a lot of rendering on the back end of your application, and it uses server components. And it also gives you the ability to use server functions. So it's pretty cool and gives you a lot of flexibility in that regard. Like I said, it just takes React and makes it into a simplified version instead of having to go out and get a bunch of different packages just to to get started. You can use Next.js and you can almost immediately just start developing. So we'll go over this. Oh no. Can everybody see the screen okay? Okay, so there's two systems, essentially of Next.js. You have your app router and your page router. Page router is the original, it's the older version, and they just work a little bit, they have some differences, but the app router is the newer version, and that's the newer recommended version for that Next.js recommends that you use. So the app router, it uses the app directory, and this is the one that's going to support server components. And then it's going to have its advanced layouts and then nested routing. And then we'll get into that, the nested routing a little bit and go over that as well today. And then the traditional routing system, it uses the pages directory. So it's a little bit simpler. It's more direct, right? So it has its pages. And I want to say the main difference is going to be the routing. And hence by their name, how the routing is hence by the name, the app router, page router. And like I said, Next.js recommends the newer app router. And that's what we're going to be using as we go on. We're going to be using app router. And page router, you might see some applications might be using a page router. Some people prefer page router. Next, Vercel has mentioned that they don't have any plans on deprecating the page router, so they plan on being able to keep using that. However, things change, so they might. You never know. So, in this regard, I would suggest always using the app router where you can. And then, any questions about that?
Didn't matter how used to say web pages and then we started seeing websites and then now I'm seeing web apps. Is there like a difference?
Yes and no. It's just one of those things where some people use them interchangeably, and then they technically have different meanings. Like a website could just be like a regular website. You go in and you're just reviewing like a company's website to see what they're about. And some people might consider a web app where it's like instead of having an application app downloaded, you're using uh something that basically seems like an application, uh like a desktop application or something like that, but inside a browser. So it depends on who you're talking to. I'm basic. I just call everything a web app. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Some people might like to be technical or literal about it, and some people just use the general term. So any other questions about app router, page router, anything? No. Okay. So as mentioned, we're going to be doing the portfolio project. And then, so portfolio, especially if you're just getting started in the field or you're just newer in general, portfolios are really good to showcase your skills. And it's a good way to convey to like potential employers or clients that you have the skill sets that they need. So you will include like previous projects that you have worked on, and the basically demonstrating what skill sets you use to complete those projects and all that fun stuff. And then it's also a little way to introduce them to yourself, right? Because you can put a little blurb in there about yourself and what skills you have and experience you have. And also, one thing you can consider when setting up your project is you can use any previous non-tech experience as well, or yeah, skills that may be beneficial, right? Because a lot of roles might require some interpersonal skills or something like that. So this is, like I said, really a way to showcase your work and showcase yourself as well. And then this module is going to be dedicated to building out that portfolio project. Any questions about that? No, okay. All right, so, with this module, it's gonna, since this is, like I said, this for your, we're gonna be focused on your portfolio. So one of the things we're gonna be focusing on is working towards autonomy, right? So, of course, we're here to help. We're gonna help wherever we can and wherever we need to. But another goal throughout this module is we're going to be kind of letting you go when you're developing your project, kind of letting you go in your own directions in terms of, design, like creativity, the overall setup, how you want to structure it and all that stuff. Of course, beforehand, we're gonna go over, uh, as needed, any best practices, right? That you want to be aware of, but at the end of the day, because that's what that's what's gonna, that's the type of world that you're gonna be introduced to, right? If you getting into the side of tech, is a lot of it is gonna be, um whether it be you have, you know, strict instructions or just very loose, vague instructions or requirements. There, to some extent, there's gonna be some or options that are going to be up to your discretion, right? So you just want to get used to that, and then especially if it's going to come down to you having to initiate a project, your a new project from scratch, or if you are just adding components or files or anything like that, there might be some structure that's given, but you're also going to have to work on starting a new file and being able to work through like what you need from there. And then one of the things we're gonna work on as well is taking a bigger problem or requirement and then breaking it down into smaller pieces, you can say, because that's a good way to get used to getting the starting point, knowing where you're gonna start and all that good stuff. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So it's gonna seem like some of the instructions are vague in a sense, but going forward, you should have enough information to be able to your produce your project, right? And of course, like I said, we're gonna be here to help you with anything you need. And of course, there's still going to be like some step by step instructions, some walkthroughs that we're going to go through to make sure everything is set up correctly. But for the most part, it's going to be you essentially leading your own portfolio. And then, like I said, some things are going to be vague, but that's to be expected. And if you ever have any questions or feel like you're not sure where to start, we're still here for that guidance to make sure we're going in the right direction. All right. Any questions about that? Okay. I know it's probably gonna be, it might be a little bit challenging at first, but that's normal. Everybody goes through that because it just takes some getting used to know where you're gonna start. But once you start becoming more accustomed to your own development style, then there'll be something that's easier for you because everybody's gonna start a project differently. Everybody's gonna start their work differently. Everybody has their own methodology. So there's no right or wrong way to get started. It's just finding what works best for you, and that's what we're trying to get to. All right. And then, and no questions about that or Next.js or anything? Okay. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and get our project started. So we're gonna start our, we're gonna go ahead and initiate next app. And similar to, bootstrapping, pretty much any other project we've been doing so far is gonna be, this one's gonna be the NPX, create next app at latest, and then your project name. So you're gonna name your project whatever you want, and it's gonna be a portfolio project, so you can name it. It can be your name, name portfolio, or whatever you wanna name it. So, and then just remember, you're gonna wanna create a new repo for this. And then also keep in mind, this is a project that you're gonna be taking with you, that you plan on using in the future or working on in the future. So you wanna keep that in mind when configuring it. Then it's gonna give you these prompts, and then you can answer them accordingly.
Are you gonna be using PNPM?
For the portfolio, we're just gonna be using NPM. I guess I realized that the homework has them using NPM, or yeah, PNPM. Now I didn't clarify on whether to use NPM or not with that, so if you already started with PNPM, that's fine, but with this project, we're gonna be using NPM.
Yeah, so in the thing, I noticed that you can click like NPM, PNPM, button on, so those are all just package managers. Yeah, stick with NPM.
Yeah.
No, this is also confusing to some folks. When you install this, it's gonna create a folder with your project inside of it. So if you do LS, as soon as you create it, you're just gonna see that folder, right? So you need to hit CD into that folder and then do like, do install or whatever.
What if I started a new, down, like, instead of on email, so on this.
You're good. Yeah. Yeah, as soon as you create it, it's gonna be that folder, so CD in there.
So tell you, like in the homework it told you going to that folder, does it tell you when it's done?
I don't know if it does like React those.
I told you that they told us, going to the folder and then run.
Yeah, cause it told you to, React will tell you to CD into the folder. I don't remember if we got.
Cool.
We'll see.
Okay, we'll find out.
Where, so with prompts?
Yeah, I think it would turn.
Yeah, it'll be in the terminal, whatever you first initialize the project, it should, bunch of prompts that come up.
Yeah, it's gonna ask you like questions back to back.
Definitely better, St. Helens.
You'll build later.
No.
And then just.
I think you need like full grown developers. Yeah, if you MLS, it'll be terrible.
Um, Then we'll go to-
Do you know the hotkey to open up your terminal on that?
Man, killed him.
Man, that.
Or maybe control. I have my control buttons.
Oh,
Correct control.
there. So you already show us, did you do it in a separate terminal? Oh, okay, so, yeah, you're gonna wanna open up your terminal first and then walk through all of those. SWG, virtualize the project. Oh, okay, so you just open up VS Code and then create, yeah, no, you wanna do like this, it'll set everything up for you.
What is sorry, that you have a next JS file? right?
Okay, yeah, she's running that, yeah, great.
I think that's good. Big order for you. Yeah, just still. Double kind of words together. Find this little map. There you go. Yep, yeah, so that's where you're at right now. So now you're going.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to do, it. You
Yeah,
can close
just-
that one, yeah. And then you just,
The good thing about using the integrated terminal is it takes you right throughout, try to find it your next one.
yeah, my.
You got it?
Yeah, surprisingly.
No. That just that just, the brackets just represent like your own text inputs.
It's interesting, being more that fast, hey, and I'm on whole side of this.
Like it's just going through basically like just top, I think. All I can see is out like that's. Like, it's right. This whole time, I figured out. That's all. Like that's some of this. Last time. But maybe. Place is another possible. And it's anything there. So it's just taking and brought it out of software that you do some.
Right. Thank you. I could give stuff for daily.
Yeah, so I had that one thing, like these DJs. I did those, like the Latin clubs are full big display, you know, the source code all over the place, so I'm just. You know, on the fly, what else you got? I'm crazy good. That's been like my fascination.
All right. Everybody good at it? We having problems? No problem. You having problems? Oh, yeah. So it'll be no dash. After that. So you can get off the. Yeah. Use your arrow keys.
So you don't need the brackets around, he's just saying that's where you place. Project. The brackets. Almost did something. That just push it on right away. Go to one. Cool.
Buddy.
The PDF.
All right. Does anybody know the command to, the terminal command to start your development server?
If you run it,
Yep. Huh?
I was saying, so like,
Oh.
it's a, you know, but,
It is, so it is npm run dev, goodness, everything's so small. Okay, yep. It's using port 3000. And then, of course, naturally, so I'm already using port 3000, so it's gonna go to 3001. It's gonna be the local host. 3000 for you, and then it also exposes a network address that you can use, so you can, it'd be a good way if you want to, like, you normally have to connect to the same network, and then you can type in that address and you should be able to access the network. So like if you want to test it on like a true mobile device and see what your app look like in that regard, you can do it that way. Sometimes it requires some configuring to be able to get it to work, because sometimes your network won't like that for whatever reason. Okay. Any questions about this process so far? Pretty straightforward. We all been through this before, right? Just a little different. Okay. So. We'll go over. Uh, so this is the next, this Next.js is their little code that they're already gonna have, just like React had. You know, they want to show off too. And as you can see, it already has Tailwind code uh, implemented. They have their own little Tailwind. And then I'll show you a cool thing about Next, which this is a newer feature, is down here at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, there's the Next logo. This table might be in the way, but if you go to your project, you should be able to see it. Yeah, you should see, be able to see it on the bottom left. They give you some additional tools. So, it tells you what your current route is, whether it's static. Um, I forget how it lists it out, um, but it also gives you info, right here in the little tools. And then also if it's throwing any errors, it's also gonna, list the errors out here as well. And that way you can click on it and see, any errors that doesn't prevent your application from rendering. You'll typically see them here, and then it'll have like a little modal that'll pop up, so you can see it. And then, of course, we all seen this, their little example app that they have. Well, not example, but their landing page, you can call it. All right, so then now what? I can't even see. Okay. All right, and can everybody see the screen okay? Okay, cool. So, we'll go over our file structure. As you can see, I don't know, before you even run your application, depending on how you have it set up, for me, I didn't use the source directory, but like if you use the app, you can typically top level, the first thing is gonna be your app. When you do the npm run dev, it actually creates a little .next folder. It creates a little dev build for you. So that way, uh, it's handling, it's basically creating like a little build for your development server. That way it's gonna run similar to if you were doing a production build, so you have a better idea. It's gonna not quite be a production build, but we'll get into that later when we're working on deploying our applications. And then similar to React, you're gonna have your files. So I don't remember if React had a page or if it was just an index. But for Next, we got our page.js and we have a layout.js. You're always gonna have that. So the page is gonna work as is gonna tell, this is gonna be your home page. On the root directory, the page is gonna be your home page, so your index, quote unquote. And then your layout is going to essentially tell Next how to render your components, and you create your you can customize it how you want it. And then it's gonna be everything similar. We're gonna have our public, which is gonna have our anything. It can have our images, fonts, anything like that. So stuff where we used to already. And then differently. We're gonna have our next config file. We don't have anything particularly set up for it right now. Then, just like our React application, we have our package.json. And then, of course, our scripts. And where was it? So we use this, Next uses the post CSS for Tailwind. And it already creates that configuration file for you. And then your typical node modules for, it always bothers me when it's not at the top, but that's just how it happens sometimes. Any questions about this structure so far, about Next.js in general? Nope. Okay. It doesn't look too much different, right? Yeah, there's just some small differences. And then so now we got our project going.
If anyone else did source, the app that you have there is inside that source folder.
All right. Now we can have some fun. If you did the homework, you would have came across, I want to say this was chapter 4, the creating layouts and pages. So like I said, mentioned earlier, it uses file-based routing. So your routes are created by using folders and nested folders to create your URL segments. So when we were working with React router and we were going in and explicitly having to create a file that included our routes, and then we had to handle our routes and create the children for them and link them together properly and all that fun stuff. Next.js handles that for us essentially. So what is happening is in our app directory, every time we create a folder, it's gonna come back on. Every time we create a folder, we're going to put a page dot, I put JSX, but it can be a page.js and they'll do the same thing in this for this instance. But any folder within that app directory that has a page.js file is going to render a page, and then it's going to determine that URL based on the location of that folder and file. So one thing about the file-based routing is each folder can have its own page.js. It can also have its own layout file as well. So you can handle the layouts at the same level as that page. So if you need to, why does it happen so? Yeah. So once we get to a certain point, and if we need to, configure our layout a little bit differently, then we can do so within our. Not sure why it's being focused now. So as we can see here, we got our folder one, and then we have our page, the JSX and the layout. And then this is all under the app directory, right? So we already have that top level page.jsx and that layout file. And then we're going to, so inside of this folder 1, we have folder 2, which has its own page a JX file, and then it doesn't have a layout file. So it's just going to go up and it's gonna use folder one's layout file, right? It's gonna, and then we got folder 3, which is inside folder 2. Folder 2 does not have, yeah, it doesn't have any files. It just has another folder, which is folder 3, which has its own layout and page files. Okay, I'm not touching anything. Okay,
You said folder 3 does not have any files, it just has folder 4.
yes,
So what would that look like in URL?
good question. We can find out. Does anybody have any guesses on how this is gonna work? What happens if we were to do / folder 1, folder 2, and then just stop at folder 3? Any guesses?
It look like page for folder 2.
That's a good guess.
With the folder, we have like links, inside. I mean, the page for folder 3 would have links, folder 4.
That's a good guess as well. Okay, well, let's find out. We can test that for ourselves. So,
I guess before we get way off topic, sorry.
yes,
So the folder structure, it would be like if you're at localhost / folder 1, right? And
Yeah.
then, cause that's got a page JSX.
Like the whole page, and then slash.
Yep, and then like / folder 2, and so on, like those, the actual words folder 1, like that's the route, right?
Mhm.
/ folder 2, so obviously you can name something different, like Pokemon / Pikachu, whatever.
Mhm.
So that's, no, it's a little, it's definitely different than how React does, so.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I like it a lot better. Who knows? You may or may not like it. So here we got our app directory, and we're gonna add another folder. And we're gonna call this folder 1. Now, if we want this one to render, we're gonna add and it can just be yes. And then just like when we start off a file with React, it's gonna be the same thing. If I can type. Yep. Has to be capital. Okay. So we can see what that does for us. So we'll do the / and then folder 1.
You make that bigger, area that URL.
Yes. Yes. I don't. Where am I at?
That URL.
There we- Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, it's going to actually here. I know that could be. Boom. Can we see that? That's the route that I use. So it's localhost port 3000 / folder 1. All right, we got that working. All right, cool. And then. And then we're gonna nest another folder in our folder one. So we're gonna do folder 2. And page.js. Same thing. Actually, we can cheat. Let's copy folder 1. And change folder 1 to 2. It's gonna be folder 2. All right. So now we added folder 2. We're gonna keep it's gonna keep the host, which is gonna be localhost port 3000 /folder. We're gonna keep the folder 1, and then we're gonna add folder 2. And it takes us to that. Cool. All right. So now we'll just go ahead, add the other 2 folders. So from here, we're gonna add folder 2 and folder 3. So in folder 2, we're gonna add folder 3. And then we're gonna add folder 4. Then we're gonna give folder 4 page.js. Oops. We're gonna give it appropriately named folder 4. Folder 4. That is this location. Okay, so let's see what happens if we do folder 3. Yep, we get a 404. This page cannot be found. Well, we know we have that folder in there. Well, like I said, Next uses the page file to render, to essentially take those React components and render it to the page.
Another cool thing is you don't have to make this for a portrait. This comes built in.
Yep. But you can also still customize it. You can, I always forget, I forgot routes, folder name for it, but you can create your own 404 pages. You can make them look all cool, and you can shame people for trying to go to a page that doesn't exist. But now we can go, so now in our address, we're gonna type in folder 4. And what do we think is gonna happen with this one? Well, we're on folder 3 right now, which folder 3 doesn't have a page file. But we put folder 4 in folder 3. And yeah, so we'll see. Yep. So so we can, so this, you would usually see this for if you had pages that were gonna be grouped together. Like if you had, let's say you had animals instead of folder 3, you had animals, and then the next route could be cat, and then dog, and so on. So you can use it for that purpose. So that would be the use case for having just an empty folder name. So that way, if you wanted to, is another way for organizing your file and folder structures. Any questions about routing so far? Nope.
So for size animals, like you wouldn't want a page there in this case, but size cat, size dog, size elephant, you would want a page on it.
Exactly. Oh, what's my stuff? Okay, I don't know why I did that. That's what I wanted to do. Okay. So then we can go ahead and delete those. All right, so for our next task, we are going to, like I said, we're working on our portfolio. So we're gonna kind of get an idea in what direction we're gonna want to go in with our portfolio. And then, like I said, with this one, I'm gonna kind of give you those creative liberties in terms of how you want to set your project up, right? So if you how you want to do your folder structure, how you want to do your pages, what pages you're gonna have. And then so we're gonna get started on that today. And then so because I don't expect you to be designers, because I'm definitely not a web designer, right? I like to use inspiration. I can share the list of the web developer portfolios. So I'll give you some time to go through and see what you like. And then uh and then you can also just do your own research, see if you can find something that you like. I would advise against trying to make it overly complicated at this point in time. Try to do something that's, if you want, you can choose, kind of the feel you want to go for. If you want to have a modern, simple theme, or if you want to have, a classic uh theme to it, or however you want to do it. I kind of want to give you that room to kind of work on it in that way. So I'll go ahead and post this in the Slack for us again.
The one you showed us last time.
Yeah, it's gonna be that same one, but just so we have it readily available. Oh, and before, one thing I would recommend is, yeah, okay. I recommend some people, so it really depends on how you want to do it. But I recommend having a components folder. That way, your components all live under the same folder. You can easily keep them separated and basically have that list of components. Some people like to put it in the app directory, and then some people like to put it in the root directory. It just, when you put it in the app directory, it's a little bit in terms of working with a relative path. It's just a little bit more easier to import, but you also have IntelliSense, so it just depends. Um, either works, either works. I tend to put it in the root directory for myself. And then I'll show you, let's see, a common setup is you would see so one thing you can even organize your components, your component folder by functionality in a sense. So if you have, for instance, you're gonna have a table that prevents like a table of information. You might have it set up differently, so where you might have the overall table component that renders the whole table, but then you might have the smaller components like that renders the rows and then the cells and such like that. So you might just have a table folder and then just those table components in it. But another common one you'll see is just the UI. So you'll have a UI folder in your components that just have the components that are either part of the UI in a sense that aren't like necessarily functional components, or they alter the UI in some way or components in some way. So this is where you would have like your card file or something. So you might have your card.jsx file or in the such. And then you could even, I guess a use case for us would be like you could have your projects folder. So that way you have the components that directly deal with your projects, right? Like if you're how you're gonna render your projects to the page. But you can also have corresponding pages and routes based on that correspond with your component. So you could have a project folder and then a projects page to render that as well. Any questions about that? About Next.js in general? Okay, don't feel, you're probably gonna have questions as you're going along on like what you wanna do and like what's the best practice, is this acceptable? Like I said, there's not always like just a one solid way to do things the right way. There might be cases where there's definitely there definitely don't do's. But like I said, I want to give you that those creative liberties, kind of work in your own direction and start finding like your style as a developer. So with that, I posted the link for the portfolios. Give you about 20 minutes to see what you want to base your portfolio on, and then we'll go from there. And then we'll be around to answer any questions. So if you have any questions, like while you're looking at these portfolios, you just want to think about the complexity of what you're going to try to implement into your own portfolio. Kind of when you're looking at these existing portfolios, especially, you're going to want to think about like the components that you're going to be that's going to take, that you're going to have to generate to be able to make that certain functionalities or whatever is happening with that page. So if you're going to have like a grid of cards, think about what components you're going to be creating to do that for yourself.
side note, figure out how to
Yes.
change the 404 pin. So if you do a not dash found.
Okay.
JS in your, app directory, then you can go to your.
It's not that sound?
Okay.
I've been working with Expo recently, and I know they do the was it like the underscore and then the not, yeah, so I was like, I'm surely it's not the same, but close enough.
One thing I would say, so the whole single page application for the React app, that's out the window now. This is all about routes and, going from one page to another and all that stuff.
Mhm.
So you're not making it a spa.
And if you're looking at something and you're kind of needing help with having a better idea of how you can implement something, and if it's appropriate for what we're gonna be doing this module, then you feel free to ask, and then I'll let you know.
The cover stuff is all gonna erase it.
Huh?
A bunch of stuff.
Oh,
The method that covers all.
I don't know. I feel like feel like gatekeeping a whiteboard is kind of crazy. They got
Those night shifts,
they got blackout curtains for the wall. I'll just say out in bulk. So. And while you're doing this, feel free to ask any questions in general about Next that you might have.
Always.
Now the whiteboard smashed the TVs.
You keep this whiteboard in a Tesla.
It's perfect.
I don't even own a car. Yeah. Very expensive. Yeah, at least.
I wrote a sticky note the other night, open one, I couldn't read it. Not figure out what it said.
A lot of people have been mentioning stickiness lately. Found magnetic. Like dry erase board, but it's. So it's fun. Yeah.
I use a day from now. Everybody at work start making money.
In the day journal,
We're taking notes, yeah.
I got a lot of handwritten notes, just, I can't read it.
I wish I could. That's, I type that. Yeah, I can. But I can type faster than.
Yeah, see, it helps with, most of the time I can't read them, but it helps with just retaining the information.
Yeah.
But that's it, so.
Yeah.
And then I feel productive when I can hold all the page that I wrote it, yeah.
How many trees did I kill this?
Another developer that I work with, he keeps a giant. It almost looks like an art book. But it's like a leather bound, just notebook that's got just blank paper. And he just uses that for all the steps.
That's what I did on, boot camp. I tried to use just line paper, but just when you're writing the code and things, just, that's enough for me anyway.
Yeah,
Mhm.
this guy doodles a lot, so maybe we'll be, we'll just do that drawing stuff.
And then also. Um. In line with our. Doing things on our own, I'm gonna give you a couple good. Resources that you can use for like assets, for like, images and like. Icons as well that you can use, so that way. Um. You can incorporate them into your portfolio if you like. And. I'll just give you the resource, but then it'll just be up to you to figure out how to implement it and using the documentation and all that fun stuff. Hmm, not bad. How is everybody doing so far?
So, seen some of them, there's very gaming vibe.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like number 22. That's so cool.
The Japanese guy.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
I'm glad you settled that one, because I actually have something that will give you that I think y'all will enjoy. What else is there?
Oh, yeah, number 22.
Yeah, right.
But I wouldn't do that. That was such too much.
That's something for later down the line, huh?
Yeah. I would not stop with that.
Or you can mix and match. You can take things that you like from one and mix it with something else.
I think like it kind of depends on the industry you're in. Like if you want to be a web developer for a gaming company, then you gotta do something like, right? Maybe.
It depends. I would always say you want to focus on just showing your skill sets, because there will be a lot of overlap, and you kind of want to present yourself for the type of role that you want. So if you want to be a front end developer and you want to mainly do front end work, then you're going to want to focus on showcasing uh things that show you want to focus on presenting things that showcase your front end skills. But if you want to do a lot of back end work, you're going to want to showcase projects that, yeah. And you'll probably see from some of these projects are going to be crazy where they do like that they have on their portfolio, but you're going to see that some projects are fairly simple, and they're just showcasing that, I can get a project like this done. So, it's more so about your project itself. Your portfolio is going to be like the first impression, and you want to make sure it's going to be like your thesis statement. You're going to want to make sure it hooks your target audience, right? And then it's going to make them want to go through and check out your projects. Most of the time, they're not going to just go in and pick your projects apart. They might like look at like open up your like GitHub, see how your project structured, give some check for some samples, um like some example code, like some problem that you may have solved, or something like that. Or they just might see how the overall look of it. Because each employer might be different. Because um you might have one who is super heavily focused on front end work, but they want you to be able to create a project to specification. So you might not necessarily they'll have their own web designers. They want to see how good you are at recreating that design. Or they want to know how good you are being able to kind of be the web designer and the developer. So like I said, everybody's different. It's just, you're going to focus on what you want to do and aim for that. Okay. Any questions so far? Give it about a few more minutes, probably 3 more minutes, and then we'll talk about some things. And then start getting hands on our project. Well, we'll talk about some things and then take a break and then get hands on our project.
That's right. You go to the shop. But I don't know if it's, getting a lot of there instead of.
It is, there's a rule that you gotta remember when you are returning JSX, your return statement. There's a main rule that you gotta remember. And if you probably look at the browser, it might know, but,
I'm not running. I just took back to create my basic page.
yeah, no, I think, well, no, you're doing it, that's cool. Oh, you see what you're doing, you got the name. Probably the name with either the empty tag or look at the ball picture.
So instead of.
I don't think that's.
This, you know, and there's a lot of spaces.
Oh, this is your homepage?
Yeah.
Oh,
I created like a. Well, I wanted it to be like introduction, but
Oh.
I found out introduction with a folder of file.
you gotta, do so if you wanted to. You were gonna have to do the one, it's gonna have to be page.
Okay.
And then, make sure you put the, extension for dot JS.
So, raise are
Or if it's just a route, then you can do dot JS.
I was trying to say they were populate.
Okay. Were you,
Right. Yes. I know we get annual memberships, so that went up.
were you on the go to that route? or you-
Oh, yeah. Sure, okay.
I'll let you.
Yeah, so basically I just kind of made a little, profile portfolio thing, just real quick. But I just wanted to kind of show how the pages work, like they're twinning, and then the components are gonna be pieces in pages like on React, right? So it's kind of, that's what it is. And yeah, it's just, so if you're in the app folder, then your immediate page is one, is your home route,
I
right?
really need that mistake. I put a JS. First page.
You just put the page, yeah, so you can folder.
I had folder and then. Folder and then I created a. Page inside the folder.
Good, okay.
So like big intro and homepage.
Oh, I said, yep.
Yeah, so that first page,
This one.
right above it, yeah, that's your index, right? That's your index.js, basically, so that's it. So then within there, you then have your folders, which are your routes, right? So like about me, gonna be this page. then the project's gonna be this page, and the contact gonna be this page. So that's the folders are your routes for your pages, right? And then within each of those, your page.js, that's where you're actually going to go. So every folder will have a page.js unless it's the instance where you're talking about the animals for some inside. For the most part, yeah, your page.js and your folders. This, I'm sure you can go later, but if you wanted to get like directly into a project, like, project ID 1, project ID 2, whatever, then you would be inside your projects, and then you would do this bracket ID, and then it's gonna pass whatever you pass the URL, so if it's pages/1, it's gonna pass that ID in, and then it'll know to give you this page, because this is gonna be the page within that ID. Right, so that's probably not for today, I don't know, how there to go, but you get that. But the main point, pages inside your folders, which are your routes, and your pages where your code goes.
So every kind of like info page has a page.js.
Every folder, yes, the page on the yes.
Mhm.
I see what I take along with that.
If you want that folder to render.
Yes,
Okay.
if you're not using it just for navigation, which is for the most part, I think.
Yeah. If you want a good reminder, a good way to kind of orient yourself toward that is just call it a route instead of a folder, and it'll help you remember that it has that specific structure to it.
And then remember, your components are just the pieces that make up your pages, just like in React, like you could have this all in one component, really, it's gonna be your page.js, but the whole point, right, is to separate it out, and make it more reusable.
Mhm.
That's why you would have like your footer is gonna be on each of your pages, so.
And that's also something like your footer in your nav menu is also something that you can handle in your layout.
That's great.
Yeah, so that way, instead of having to go in every page and render and call your footer, you can handle it in the layout. And then that way, for instance, if you were going down and you got to a page where you didn't want that footer to be shown anymore, you create a new layout in one of the nested folders and then handle it that way. So it gives you that flexibility as well.
Any questions on that? I put it in the chat, in the slides.
Perfect.
Y'all may not know any better at the moment, but this is very good. It's out this way. It's less to manage. There's a rule. Like a build rule that a lot of developers like to follow, and it's just making things easy to change. ETC, easy to change, easier to change. If we were to throw all of that, the idea behind all of this into just one giant file, that would really clutter things up. For future state, like say if you went and built something that way, if you move on from it, and someone else further on down the line has to work on it. Having one giant file to go through that's loaded with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of lines of code is really difficult. So by breaking it up, making it into different pages, it's easier to comprehend. The big word is it's easier when it comes to cognitive load, easier to read. But more than anything too, if there's one slight change that you make, if this were one giant file, you have to go, you have to search for it, you have to make the change there. By breaking it up, easier to find, easier to change, easier to reuse. So multiply that by like 100, you can do things so much easier by breaking it out and using a component-based architecture structure.
Yep.
It also makes your files or your project more resilient. Because if you have, like, say you just needed to change something in the footer, if you have this giant 100,000 line code thing, and you change something in the footer that breaks, your whole page is broken. But if it's a component that's taken out, then maybe just that component doesn't show up, or maybe it's, like on Amazon one time, I think I saw they're like curly bracket, hashtag something on a product, right? The whole site didn't break, that little part, it was flooded.
Yep.
So it makes it resilient, and then, what's the other thing I was to say?
I'll take it, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
And to piggyback off of that, another practice is in those instances, because it's also good. You'll probably hear the term fallback a lot. So they have, for instance, like if a specific component was to fail, you could have a fallback to where instead of it showing like a error, you can say, data not available at this time, right? Or these pictures aren't available at the time. Try again later. So that you might notice, like if you went to a web page and it said something failed to load and it's not available, try again later. That's an example of having like a little fallback. Instead of having like a crude error, you can have it polished and say something more what's the word? In more of a in layman terms, more for the client to be able to read. So those are another consideration for that.
Server error means nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All they want to know is if it works or not, and if it's their fault or not. So, okay. And then before we go on break, let me see, show a couple different things. Oops.
That's the one somebody did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So this is Lottie files. So they have paid assets, but they also have free assets. So these are typically they're gonna be SVGs. But this is something like if you want to include like small like 3D images or just cool little images. A lot of them are animated. You can get them ones that aren't animated, but they also have React configuration, so you can get a React package for it, and you can implement it in your project that way. So you can, if you wanted to create your own little custom 404 page and have like a little cool little animation for it, but they also have all kinds of different things. You can pretty much search for anything and find whatever you need. So this is just something cool um that is that you can take advantage of. And then I keep losing my mouse. There it goes. Okay. We have, I'm not sure if we talked about this one or not, but Font Awesome is a pretty popular one. They have free icons and they also have their pro version. Um, they're coming out with a new version soon that you can pre-order, which I never seen pre-ordering a subscription plan, but you can do that. So like you can, they're basically just icons, so you can go and pull icons. So like the little, if you want like the little share button, or you can go get like a little email. Because you probably seen in some portfolios, they even had the little share button with like, know someone who might need my services, and you share the little share button, right? So you can find all kinds of icons. You can even find brand icons. Let's see. So if you want to share your Facebook or your LinkedIn, oops. Okay, a little delay there. So your LinkedIn or even in your GitHub or anything like that. So you can find all kinds of different assets. And I'm gonna put these links in the Slack. And then another one that Brian reminded me about when he was doing his whiteboard work. This is a good one for planning, or if you a visual person, it's called a Scala Draw. Um, it's a they have, of course, everybody, they're always gonna have their own pay version, but you can use it as what's called like wireframing. So what Brian did up there is a form of wireframing is when you basically draw out how you plan for your website. It's like a basic version of your website on how you want it structured. So this is a good way. So that's also a good way. Doing something like that is a really good way of being able to like, you know, come to term on what you want and like what different sections of a web page that you're gonna have, and then being able to break it down into smaller parts, right? So we have this. Okay, that's fine. If we have this little example web page, and we know that we have a nav menu and then a footer, and then it can also help you to break it down in part, because then you can even create little text boxes with it, and be able to just to however works best for you, track your thought process, and do it like that, so that way you can, like I said, break down a full page or function into smaller parts, and then kind of determine on how you want to go there. So ScholarDraw is a really good one for that, because you get a lot of features included in the free version. Then you got any recommendations?
React icon works well.
Oh yes, React icons, and I want to say that comes built in with.
But it's that, yeah,
It didn't.
So I think it's still.
A ScholarDraw. Yeah, I'm gonna link it in the chat. I know that's weird. It could be. I know I think Next uses. I'll try to remember. I think it does have its own built-in icon though.
makes sense, I don't know why.
It is. I use the weird one. I'll find it.
One thing about packages, security thing. It's getting crazy right now with AI and everything that they're doing with making these fake packages so they can then import, or attack you basically. So when you look at a package, make sure you look at it and see how many downloads it has, got, good stars or whatever they use, I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, don't just, openly just install stuff.
Yeah, because people are using, what is it? They're like, if you have something with an I in it, they'll replace the I with an L, so you think it's that same package, but it's really not. Or they have it to where like they're using common typos. So if you try to import a package and you use and you have a typo in it, they're keeping track of like the common typos and
What I saw, they were using like a Cyrillic letter I instead of the English letter I or something, so it doesn't look any different, but it takes you to some page where you're getting viruses. Wow.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. Again, yeah. All right. Well, outside of that, any questions? Nope. Okay. Well, I think it's a good time to go on break. And then we'll be back here at 12:30.
You had pretty good. Oh, yeah. I haven't finished it. So you said so we did like that crazy, work on games and stuff. I started, yeah, and this would be the initiate, like, see my movie, see a lot of that. Yeah,
Yeah, it's,
Can I show you?
yeah, I see those two things.
Huh?
Just keep.
Of course.
So,
Like the parts.
I can like this one right here, he
I
has
did- I
the
took-
six home and
I
then
would
he has the
both of
projects.
those.
info.
Exact same things.
Right, in this case, it would be the home would be the main folder and then everything else would be under the home folder.
So
Like we did,
I was
folder
talking
one,
like
two,
the-
three, four,
yeah,
right,
really
we were
quick.
one inside the other.
it
In
takes.
this case, it would be home would be the initial folder, right? And then contact, info, everything else would be
Now,
under
once
the
you
home
get
folder.
So the home page
Like you'll be able
is
to.
gonna be You consider, so
This is my first-
it's gonna have the another thing for the index page, it's always gonna be the one in the record, so it's gonna be this one. That's gonna be.
Once you learn that, that'll.
Yeah, that's gonna be the
that'll
home
give you
page.
an understanding.
So all we need is on
Fundamental
home,
understanding.
pretty much,
What you
or
need
do
to
I-
know.
that's-
So for
Yeah,
the,
once you get
for
hang
the
of it,
files,
it's just-
so
it's
that's
basically
just the,
stripping
that's the
out
one
all
that's,
the visuals.
so source app.
It's
and
just,
that's
it's just word, which is hard, like, navigate down.
Okay.
So, in
When you
order
get the hang of
for,
it, it's like.
in order for Next to
you
recognize
never
the
wanna
one,
use a mouse.
routed,
You'll never
They
take
have
your
to have
hands
that,
off.
it has to be page.js.
But that's under home, right? So I made a new folder called projects next, right? I'll make another page under projects and that will be this one right here, right?
Yeah,
But I need to make a folder and then a page file inside that folder,
Yes.
which is called projects.
yes,
And then for info, I need to make another folder under home, right? And then make another page that JS,
so,
not correct? I'm just making folders first and then I'll make a new page JS inside each one,
yes,
right?
but you typically wouldn't have anything nested under the home.
Not, no,
So it wouldn't be home, you can call it like, if you want to do it that way, you can call it pages.
okay, just,
That'd be the typical, it'd be like pages,
okay,
because your home is gonna be. Outside, it's gonna be the very first page inside the app directory.
Okay.
So, so like if you were to collapse the home folder.
Yeah.
Oh, so you got it in there. Oh, there it goes. Right there, that page.
okay, that's the first one.
Yeah, that's the home page. So that's why when you go to whatever your website name is, .com, it's gonna land on that page.
Okay,
That's
so
gonna be
this
first.
is the home page there,
That's the true home page, yes.
okay.
Now, if you want, you can have it set up to where, if you wanna show like explicitly home, you can do that. And you can make, so that's gonna be something we go over where, it's like a redirect, you can have redirect it
To another,
yeah, which you can have, if you want it to explicitly.
but it feels like it's an extra step, right, that doing the,
In a sense, but it's not necessarily wrong.
okay,
It's pretty common, like some people do that, and just because. It's a preference thing, especially depending on how your app is set up,
but then I made this home folder, I need to delete that one and put all of those folders.
you can even just change it to pages if you wanted to. Or if you wanted to have those folders outside of that, then. you can
Yeah,
do that.
just under app, right, all the
Yeah.
folders would be under app,
Yeah, it's just gonna come down to, at this point, it's all just personal, that portion is just personal preference. And then it's just the industry, well, how Next is set up, the index page is gonna be, that is technically the / with nothing behind it, that / with nothing behind it. That's gonna be that first page that it renders, or the home page. But then anything after that, is most of the time is just like whatever you prefer,
then I choose whatever they.
how you want it, yeah, how you want
They
the.
click it and then they'll just do whatever I make it do after the,
Mhm.
they click on info, I can name it whatever.
Yep. Exactly. But then if you also need a good example, Brian put a really good example of how a folder structure could be. No. I hit the wrong, edit.
You're gonna go into a little bit more detail about the layout, folder for the layout files.
Yes,
think those really confused me when I was starting learning.
Starting
And
learning.
I was like, where's my CSS at?
Yeah. I know, yeah, it definitely was a time to be had for me as well.
Know about this page, it's so cool.
Oh, the lobby files?
I have a little Google one, nice one.
I know, that was the first one I know, they all started popping up. I think, someone from my, what they call it, class, had showed me it, they were showing me their portfolio. They were like, "Oh, check out my portfolio," and then I was like, wait a minute, where'd you get this? Oh, how'd you do that? Yeah. And they got some cool stuff. Random word. So they also have like a little editor too, so you can like kind of change them up to. Customize the color. I'm not good enough to change how the animation work themselves, but.
Currently, the discussion is to change this to like a module base. I know it likes module right now, but it's, they add them all together. So it'll be like basic mostly says module. And it will have like a certain number of students. If we don't, it'll reset.
So like if someone might come back or next year, I think they will let them just come. Just put a box.
Yeah.
It might be.
Yeah, so I was kind of against it at first, that felt like if somebody came in that, let's say, interviewed John Script, and they hadn't done. job
Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah, so, but I do think like that, if somebody has the experience with this,
Yeah.
kind of this and that. That's good. Then we'll get more people. And then there's talk about being more remote friendly, so, which we did last year, we had Tulsa students. And there wasn't, well, so we would still do it in class, but we could also have students, sponsoring whatever.
Man, like, you see how I struggle, like, small thing.
I mean, it's awesome.
I was like, geez, I cannot do that.
Yeah, but and that's why I had to go to in-person.
Yeah.
So, but if we do, like, the whole state, like, virtually, and get more people out,
Okay, that makes sense.
and the price.
I guess for people who are far away.
Yeah.
This, they have no choice.
Exactly.
Say they try. Right, or,
So the thing with that though, when we did this all students, I really felt that they didn't get attention because they aren't here.
yeah,
So we would need, and I'm talking about the board and everybody, we would need like a dedicated, like a TA, right? Like just for the online students, so they could have somebody.
oh, right, yeah, like a virtual person to get them.
Yeah, I mean, they could be in class too, but like I said, like Jonas could, just like make sure they're on track. Cause it, as an instructor, like you can't stop every 5 minutes, like, all right, Tulsa,
Yeah.
hey.
Oh, right. I think.
And that's what I last, like, they would like raise their hand on Zoom, but we're
But
busy.
nobody would notice.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely some change, and like I said, some price, but it's been crazy low for a long time.
was there like funding from the government or is just?
Yeah, so they had COVID funding up until last year.
Okay.
Or I mean, up until last summer. And then they also had some other, like, corporate funding and stuff,
Right.
but they
And then
all,
all that.
yes, yeah.
Just this year?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and that. Great. They had the internship program, but they were in the higher salary, partnership was still, but it is over easily. Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was great. Yeah, they were, I mean, it was a lot of money for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it, and they were,
By the time.
and I'm not against Trump, of course, Trump or whatever, but it's with everything that he shut down, all the funding, everybody's like, oh, I can't give my money away right now, and it's allowed us.
Yeah. Oh, okay, now I get it. I wasn't thinking about that stuff.
Yeah.
I see. That sounds, man.
But that's why they also implemented the membership programs.
Right.
And it was pretty cool so far. I did the $25 one. We've had a couple, we have like some private groups, connections and things. They're supposed to be doing a lot more. That, so it's,
I think I'm going to sponsor it. So I get I think. This man, I don't think, man, this is so great. Cause,
like,
man, even at school, man.
college.
Yeah, it's
I hear that all the time. There was a, I may have told you, but in my unit when I was in the Army, there was a kid who was a kid. Sorry, a young adult. Who was going through a college, he's OU doing computer science.
Yeah.
He's asking me, he's like, man, I know you're like blah, blah, blah. And I said, dude, you gotta, like, I mean, do your degree, whatever you're gonna do is fine, but you're not gonna learn to code.
No. It is, it blows my mind. These guys will finish 4 years and not show up.
Yeah.
It's so wild. Cause you learn Python and it's gone, you move to the next thing, C plus plus, so next thing. Never gonna use that. And then when you go to like the government term, you're like, oh, it's like 3 years ago since I did that stuff.
Where people are going like internships, where they're going, not getting enough attention, to be able to like.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. And now. Guys, this is crazy, and this is unbelievable.
I see the, like on LinkedIn here, like some people post, hey, you know, I'm a recent graduate, blah, 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 3 years experience, and I'm like, did you know? You learned it 3 years ago, it's like, I don't know if you can count that.
Yeah.
But I've seen a big uptick in, like, I don't care about your resume, I don't care about this or that.
That's,
Just come in,
that
show
would
me
be
your code.
that would be cool. Which was my insecurity, because I have a government, like that.
COVID fit have been, so, COVID fit, anytime, like, whether anybody who's in tech, it's easy. The actual like hiring process, and a lot of times they're focusing on COVID, they're like, I can teach you how to do it. A lot of times they're preferring to be able to teach you.
Then you coming in.
So,
Yeah.
that's what I've been noticing, so. COVID fit, different things, different people, well.
And with AI though, it's so much is changing and so fast. And I don't think,
How do you like all stuff?
you don't
I just wanna know my thing and then know and just do my thing for like 10 years or 20. Just.
do the wrong business. Yeah, it's
Oh,
all the time.
like,
Like,
this other new thing.
so just last week, like, so our QA guy is manual QA, right? So he's just literally clicking, clacking, repeating himself over and over and over. I'm like, this student, like, our products are getting bigger and bigger. We don't have time to
Keep up with that, yeah.
And so I went in and I learned how to use, Playwright, because I'd never messed with it before. And I learned, it has a code gen that we click through. Anyway, I learned all about it. And then I made a whole document and I sent it to him and everybody else. And I'm like, all right, use this thing. So I didn't really want to, like.
Yeah,
But
you did.
I had to argue it.
Yeah.
But, is it with AI, like I see a lot of them posting, you know, I don't care about, for jobs, they're like, I don't care, about your resume, blah, 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 come in here, use AI, build something real, you know, an hour or whatever your interview is. And then we'll see. So
Yes.
it's all, obviously, there's still like, I'm sure at the state, they're pretty old school in their interviewing process.
Actually, no, they're pretty. How can I describe it? They're pretty much like, I wouldn't say, oh, well, what do you mean by that?
Like, just, like, here's my resume, okay, how do you deal with conflict? Like,
So my interviews have actually been a little bit more informal than I've had, one with the travel and one with the, it's been like a little bit more informal. And, I actually only had, this is the only had one interview. Okay. So they didn't need the second interview, so
That's good.
yeah, so. Surprisingly enough, the state itself is actually pretty impressive. Good.
Interesting. That's
Especially with home, because home is just a lot of tech people, so. They got that many.
I'm sure the big companies that do it are probably still pretty old school.
Yeah.
Give me an example when you had some conflict with an employee,
Right,
and how did you approach it?
I quit.
Yeah. I think my interviews all things like, how I would actually be able to, match the job description, so.
That's,
Surprisingly.
I think the cool thing about programming is you can prove you know how to do it right versus
that's what I love about
other,
what we do is. You learn, then you do it.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't work, you come, see it's not good. Other fields, it's like, you know. You don't create any. Right.
yeah, we're definitely builders, builders and fixers. We do.
And breakers.
And breakers.
many people are left in the club?
I think everyone's here, except for, John, Ramon. So that's makes.
Well, soccer, you guys have, because we can have more people after we go, module one, that we can,
Bring more people in.
yeah, it's.
Yeah, so then that's what we're talking about. Next year, things are gonna change to more like a single module based thing. So each module will be like whoever wants to be in that module. So you can definitely like this, go from, you know, HTML to, you know, to the capstone. But it'll be like if you say you already know HTML, CSS, you just wanna jump into JavaScript, just jump in. And if you already know React, what you wanna learn next, okay, just jump in over there. But, so it'll be more open, I guess.
Yeah. I was thinking you guys can do like with your renting an apartment, you pay the first module, the last one.
Right. There you go.
And you know, maybe where people will want stuff, not
Yeah.
use that money.
Yeah, and they thought of it like that. Emily had mentioned doing, I think she said like pay $50. And go to the first class, and if you don't like it, like you get your money back or something like that. But yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, being,
Do you think people know about this?
but are they coders?
Yeah, do you think that people know?
Normally, yeah, Emily said in years past, like, there's been a wait list.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think the trouble with this year is like the last year, all the AI stuff was going crazy. And then, of course, with money and everything, and people are like, is it even worth learning, you know, because AI is gonna do everything. But as I've seen over the last month or so, people are going the other way. They're like, well, okay, you can write a lot of code, but none of it works.
Yeah.
So, and then people, the vibe coders that are doing it all don't know how to code, so they can't go fix it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole new industry now, people who just go through a big fine code for yourself.
I mean, for me, even, I wish I knew about this like 5 years ago. Especially after getting laid off, like, I had no networks.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything.
Yeah,
So,
I do think we can do a lot better job outside of Techlahoma, of letting people know. But it's marketing, you know, I mean, all that good stuff, it always goes down to money.
everything is money. Bottom line.
But tell your friends.
Oh, yeah,
Let them know.
I'm spreading the word.
If anybody, you know, if anybody's getting doc, getting cleaned up,
Yeah.
superheroes coming,
Okay.
don't get off, give her here that do this. I don't know what it is. That was selfless promotion.
Where were you promoting to what?
My superhero hat.
Oh, I know, I see it, that's so nice.
You fix the dog yet?
I looked at it, I looked,
Cause my neighbor's dog keeps barking, I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you saying?
I think,
Shut up.
did you tap listen?
Okay. Okay, so I'll check it out.
Yeah, check it out. Listen.
I'll wait for the dog.
I'll do it. I'll just bark at it right
Right now, I took.
What's it do?
I took it out, cause I was like, it's stuck, yeah. She got stuck, so I was like, I'll throw it.
What's it called?
It's called, Pet Speak.
Speak.
Let's speak.
Cause it was frozen, it felt like it was frozen.
Translator.
Probably, so do pet comma and then speak. And then, yeah, and then space, and then the end of speak. Do exclamation point. And put a space in between them.
Right here.
I need to do better. Or you can also, just search for me.
I just looked up his name.
Yeah, just do Brian Rigsby. BRYA,
Brian.
no with a Y.
Sorry.
Which one?
Brian.
Rigsby, RIG. SBY.
This. No.
What?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, yeah, so just.
That's your message, still come on.
Why is it?
Go ahead, start recording.
Oh, okay.
This way, I guess I should be more specific in my weight, it's weighty.
Okay, I was like, what is it?
There you go. You got feedback direct from you.
So the unfortunate thing is I made that so long ago that I tried to get, I got my code back on GitHub and it doesn't.
No,
May I just start over.
Ooh. Okay.
Okay.
Everybody-
Back to you.
All right. So we go ahead and get started. With it, so one thing I'm gonna show a quick video. But then after that, we'll go ahead and start working on our project, getting it built out a little bit, getting our initial layout to how we want to build it. And then we're gonna talk about a little bit more of the layout, more of the layout file and how we can customize our layout, and especially the importance of the root layout. And then we'll talk about dynamic routing a little bit as well. So, and in this video is one of my favorite YouTubers that I found when I was first starting, and he's really good if you want to see work. His channel is Hyperplex, and he does a lot of cool stuff when it comes to web design and its functionality. He mainly focuses a lot on like the cool things you'll see, like if you see a web page where like there's like a little what's the word, you like a color or a light effect that follows your mouse. He does a lot of that cool stuff. He gives you a very quick, most of his videos are under 10 minutes, usually like 4 minutes, to give you a very quick overview of how it's done. And even if you're not following along, it's good to help build your mindset for like doing like cool things like that. I don't use any of the techniques. I just like watching him do it. So I like to live vicariously. And then let's see. But this one is where he goes through and redesign
Amazon and
some websites. Hold up, let me see if I can change this out.
There's so many combined,
So what?
like YouTube has so many options.
Uh-huh. So many.
and pretty much the A to G of the internet. Like if you've ever been on the web, you've probably come across one of their sites. So I feel like it'd be reasonable to assume that the main landing pages for these companies would be some of the best in the biz. But for some reason, I found them to be a bit lacking. Let's see if we can figure out why. Starting with Google. We're going to set aside the numerous visual inconsistencies across the various versions of your landing page for a moment, and we'll just focus on this one here. It's strange to me that you've decided to round so many of your UI components, and yet whenever you're using one of the Doodle logos, there's no rounding at all. When combined with the fact that the image doesn't align with anything else on the page, it just creates another visual inconsistency that's hard to overlook. I think the relatively minor adjustment of making the image the same size as the search bar makes a lot more sense. Fixes your alignment problem, but it still doesn't address the lack of roundness. We could simply round all 4 corners, but I kind of think we could do you one better by taking some inspiration from the Android app drawer. I specifically like how you rounded the outer corners for the search results more than the inner ones, and then left a little gap in between. I think it would look really good if we use that same style here. Wait, Hyperplex, you wing style. Did you even consider the fact that there's like thousands of different Google Doodles, each of which has its own unique and wildly different design? Oh, okay, whoa. I can still salvage this. Just give me a sec here. Aha, got it. If there's a logo style that won't fit within our rounded container, we do like a gradient background and then just place the logo on top. Ew. Close one. Okay, now I want to refer back to those other designs because we need to do some shopping for some different features. If I had to pick a favorite search icon, I'd have to go with this one here. Though I think it'd be a bit too much to flood all of your icons with that style, so let's go with the plain white ones for the other two buttons. I'm starting to feel like things need to be broken up somewhat. So I think an easy fix would be separating out your buttons. Note that we once again kept the smaller radius on the inner corners and the larger radius to match the outer corners. Now there's just two sections left to handle, the shortcut links and the newsfeed down below. I don't really have any issues with this section. We could just kind of convert it to the new style. But I do, however, want to take a closer look at this section. Let's start with what I like first. The icons make sense to me, and I'm glad they're contained within a predefined space. Without that container, there's a greater chance of things looking sort of uneven, since you're now relying on the size and shape of the icon itself. Having a label down below makes sense too, as well as laying them all out in a grid like you have. But what doesn't make sense to me is the actual content of the labels. I get that they're based on the title of the web page, but it just seems like there's gotta be a better way to do it. For instance, one of the key pieces of information I want to see here is the base URL of the site I'm visiting. No HTTPS, just twitter.com. And ideally, I like to see the name of the site I'm going to as well, especially if I'm just going to their homepage. But if there's a specific page it's shortcutting me to, like the Your Work page on CodePen, it'd be fine to include the whole title. All right. With the current layout, there just isn't a whole lot of space to nicely fit a lot of characters, which means a lot of the labels might be getting cut off. So perhaps swapping the 4x2 grid for a 2x4 would give us some more room to work. Overall, I think I'm decently happy with how this one turned out, but the fact that I forgot to account for other doodle designs is just plain embarrassing. All right, on to Amazon. Where to start? Oh, you know what? Speaking of great places to start, if you're watching this and you have any interest at all in learning about web development from high quality, reputable instructors from some of the top tech companies, you need to check out Frontend Masters. In fact, if you go to frontendmasters.com/trial, they'll give you access to 5 of their most popular courses completely free. And if you finish those and want more, it's only $39 a month to unlock access to 150 plus courses. Literally everything web development related you could possibly imagine. No idea where to start? They've got learning paths that will walk you through step by step exactly which courses to take to hit a certain goal. I'll leave a link in the description so you guys can check them out, or at the very least, go get yourself some free courses. All right, Amazon. I can't sit here and pretend I have an explanation for what makes a good gradient, but I can say that I'm not the biggest fan of this usage here. Maybe it's because it doesn't seem to mesh well with the rest of the page. Either way, I don't want to get rid of it entirely. That seems too easy. So let me see if I can figure out a better way to incorporate it. I really like how on Vercel's landing page, they contained a vibrant gradient within some text, and as a border to their button. I also like YouTube Music's homepage, where they subtly placed a gradient in the background. So using those as a starting point, let's take your gradient here and use it as the border of your search bar. Now, I just straight up prefer dark themes, so I'm going to make it black as well. Your navigation tabs here look fine, but it's not exactly clear that I can scroll to see more of them. Perhaps giving them a distinct container would be better, because there'd be a higher chance of either seeing the last button cut off or the start of the next button. That seems silly to leave it up to chance. I know an arrow would be an easy way to be more explicit about it, but I'm not really a fan of the way that looks. So what if instead we got a little fancy and said that if the length of our buttons happens to align perfectly with the edge of the device, we dynamically adjust the button padding just a bit to fix it. Okay, this location selector doesn't really need any changes. It could honestly just stay put. But maybe since we switched the tabs to buttons, they look better up top with the location selector directly below search. All right, what's next? Well, I guess one thing that's kind of annoying is always having to reach to the top of the screen and search. So what if we shifted this whole section down here closer to where the hand naturally rests? And then, of course, when you scroll, it could stick to the top, similar to how it does now. Okay, onto this featured section. My biggest issue here has got to be the misaligned images due to the label having to drop down to a second line. I know it probably makes more sense to fit as many products here as possible, but I'm sorry, I just can't deal with it. So I'm going to swap the orientation to landscape to allow for longer labels and say that there just have to be a character limit in place or an ellipsis to deal with the overflow. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that no one in the history of ever has enjoyed Bannerman. But I will say that adding a subtle container like a border with some rounded corners at least makes it a little classier. Going back to your gradient for a moment. Mentioned earlier, really liking how YouTube Music incorporated theirs into the background. I think we could get away with something similar by hiding this one behind your search area. I also think it'd look pretty swell if you used it for the highlighted map option as well. If you like these redesigns and want to actually interact with them, definitely check them out on CodePen, or if you want to see more of my redesign ramblings, here's another video I did on Costco and Domino's.
Wow. That is so cool, like, why? I mean, YouTube, everybody, they got all the money in the world to make things cool, but they don't. Why?
A lot of the times it's just, it depends on their focus. They might have, different teams that work on things and they just end up coming with like slightly different things and it just leads to that, especially with a company that's as large as Google and employs a lot of developers. So it may they just don't have a process to ensure like that type of consistency. And then it's just that even though that a lot of these people are working for these top tech companies, I mean, they're still like people and just developers too. So they're gonna just they might slack on some things, but realistically, I mean, what he did, somebody else could also probably go and do the same thing to his rework up and find, so it always comes down to like um there's like some best practices when it comes to design, and there's also like, personal preference, like, those creative liberties. So it just comes down to like your preference, but what to the standard that works for, practical UI and UX design. So and like I said, and that was like one of the reasons why I wanted to show you that video, is like because like even major companies like Google and Amazon, you probably experience it yourself where you notice something that's like not very intuitive, or you like, why is it like this? Why do I gotta do this to be able to do this? But so it's just like even at that level, those type of things are happening. So don't feel like you have to be perfect when you're doing your development or anything like that, because that's where a lot of people get stuck at the beginning. Like I said, is trying to figure things out. It's gonna come back down to just like start getting it done, and then especially in the beginning, because like once you figure out your process and what works best for you, and picking up the best practices and all that stuff, you'll be able to implement them into your own process and be able to grow from there. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then I just wanted to show you like even if you don't use like all those practices, you might like get some nuggets out of it that you might like and enjoy, and some things that uh you might be able to take away from it that you might implement to your own process as well. Uh and since like I said, we're working on our portfolio, so you're gonna be uh to an extent designing your own portfolio. So just so you could just to see kind of like what somebody else's mindset when they're like thinking about what they're doing when they're designing things. So like some considerations, like how he was talking about the Google banner not being in line with anything else on the page. So you might, it's just to help get you tuned for that kind of process when you're like going in, when you're making a application or a website or anything. You want to make sure you're still keeping like the users in mind, who's going to be on the other end of this application, how their experience is going to be.
I want a second. Front-end masters is actually really, really good. It's my company, when I first got on, they had like what do they call it, like a learning stipend or whatever, so they pay for you to go have something. So they bought that for me. It was really good. I learned it. There's a lot, obviously, everybody and the mother's like, I have this teaching course, come buy my teaching course, but that was actually really
Yeah. They got some, I know I've seen that, and I want to, because one of my another one of my favorite YouTubers that I like to watch was he teaches a course on there, and I've been wanting to check out some of the what they offered. Okay. So now we'll go ahead and start working on our project.
Remember functionality over design, right?
Yep.
Get it to work,
And
and
then
then make it pretty. Did you want to talk about the layout files a little bit? Like how that.
yes. Okay. So we'll talk about okay, yeah. React. So this is the Next.js prefabbed layout file. This is this layout that's in your app directory. This is what's called the root layout, and you'll see it labeled as such, named as such, the root layout. So you absolutely have to have your root layout. And it also has to have the HTML and the body tags in it. So that's an important consideration. If you're going to be changing anything in the root layout, you want to make sure you maintain that HTML and body tag because it's essential for it to render your pages. So you notice, so it has the children prompt, and right here, this is what's going to determine how your layout is. So like if you were going to be putting a footer and a nav menu in here, you could put it in here and this will it'll wrap around your whole page. So the children are going to be your components, your page components being passed through. This is where they're being passed through is to this root layout. And so your children is going to be your page components. So it's going to include all those. When you make a new folder, it's going to include those as well. So that's why you see them set up as components because they're being passed through, and then they're going to be rendered in this body, within this body. And so that's one consideration. So let's see. So when well, no, let's call it. We'll just go for were to create. But no, I didn't. Wait, why did I do that? Why? All right. So we could do our problem. We can identify the children as well. Let's see. Then So we're gonna add a header tag. We're gonna say this is the folder one layout, and then we're going to add a header tag here. I guess I should have made that one an H2, but hindsight. Is the seat is the root layout. And let's see if we get the expected result. All right, so this is the root layout. So it's even showing on your 404 page. And then as you can see, so we still have our root layout, and then we have, this is the folder one layout. So you can even customize the layout. Like I said, it's gonna be for each route. You can customize the layout for each route. So it gives you some flexibility in how you want to set it up. So that way, if you were to, for instance, if this was going to be a dashboard, you can have your dashboard set up for anything that's within the dashboard route. But then if you wanted to have like just a regular static web page, then you can have your layout set for that. And then keep losing my mouse. But does that make sense to everybody? Did you say, okay?
It was interesting to me that they all popped up on the same page,
Mm-hmm.
because I was expecting if you add the Nest URL.
It was gonna,
the Nest.
yeah, so the root layout, so the way it's set up, and then there's a next, we're gonna talk about that next. Next has a way that you can handle that where you can generate not the layout per se, but like how the pages are handled, and you can handle that in a different way, and that's gonna be a way that we're gonna go over. But so in your layout page with your children, is the way it's handling the children, since it's passing it as a component, or yeah, as a component. So essentially a function, and then it's gonna, I say a function, but essentially it's gonna render that the return value from that component's JSX, right? And it's gonna render it here, and then it's gonna take it in order. So this H1 tag is above the children, so it's gonna be above it. But if we were to put something after the children, then it's gonna be under it. Yeah. I think we can even do the why is it not set up? So this is, we have the footer of the root layout. And then even if we were to go to a route that doesn't exist. Oh yeah, it doesn't exist right here. So we get our 404. And then we have at the bottom, we got this is the footer of the root layout. So it's still, now there is, as you can see, it kind of overflows. It's not flush at the bottom of the page how we would like it to be. Which is a common problem with these layouts. Any questions about that so far?
So anything on your layouts gonna be shared with all your other folders?
the children. So the root layout, so with your root layout, it's gonna be shared with all those other folders, right? And then for this one, so in your folder, if we would have two separate folders, then oops, no, not that. Oh, did I took, hold up. I just realized I did that now. And I didn't even notice. Oh. Open. There it goes. So we got, this is the root layout, and then this is the footer of the root layout is wrapping our folder one. And then we got, this is the folder one layout, and then the folder one page. And then,
Yeah, so this is the bit that really confused me, so, why don't you go real quick?
yes,
So we have the main layout, right, the pages layout. So this is like the layout. Of everything, right, the whole thing. So then when you go into your actual pages, like this layout is just for this page and anything under it,
Mhm.
right? So you see that the children it takes in, that's gonna be this page, right? And so it's a layout wrapper specifically for this page, and each one can have one. If it doesn't have one, it's gonna go to the layout above it, right? And so this case, that would be the main one. But if it was, nested folders and folders, then it would, we would But like that, I was like, why are there so many freaking layouts? So if you could change, you could say, okay, folder one layout, I want this H2 to be blue, or whatever, you know, but the rest of the page, like I said, I didn't have this one, I just had this guy, would be black or red or whatever.
Even the page.js, I'm like, that's so many pages.
Yeah.
How do you know which one is?
And that's what
Difference.
the whole folders, that's the whole reason for the folders.
Yeah.
Cause you know where they are, but yeah, that's what confusing too, I was like, they give them different names, you know? But that's how Next does it, you have to work within the Next framework.
Mhm.
That's the, what's the word, the hand, not the handoff, it's like, that's the trade-off. Trade-off. there you go.
Trade-off, oh, yeah.
Can't think of it. That's the trade-off from going, because if you're doing big JavaScript, you do it however the heck you want. But if you're doing React, you're doing Next, you gotta live in the world. You gotta do the way that they do it.
And that goes for any language or framework that you work with.
So that layout, the folder wall layout doesn't affect the app page, right? So it's above it, it's,
Yeah,
Well,
so,
it's in the folder.
yeah, so it's never gonna adopt a layout from any of its children, no. It's just only gonna, it's gonna go up, so it's gonna only go up ever. So
Don't
you,
think about the folder structure as up or down, as far as like what's
what's,
actually above something, it's like in or out.
yeah,
So if it's inside that folder one folder, it's only gonna affect what's
anything inside, as many folders you have inside your own.
exactly.
mhm,
Okay.
yeah. And you'll understand it better, like, once you start doing it yourself and you seeing like what works, what doesn't work, cause it kind of gets a little confusing. And then with them being the same name, a big problem that I have is like, I'll think I'm on the root layout, but I'm actually in a folder. And sometimes my eyes plays tricks on me, so, if I'm not paying attention, I'll end up in the wrong layout, but,
Well, and even like right now, you have page.js next to page.js, it's opened up in your terminal.
oh, yeah, yeah.
So you have to look and say, okay, that one's the second folder. of page.js. This one says folder one, yeah.
Yeah.
And know where you are.
Yeah, it's easy to get, to confuse yourself
And
sometimes.
some text sometimes to say this is folder 2, folder 1, maybe.
Yeah, and you usually, so if you like usually know by like the name, cause you're usually using like, your naming is usually gonna be like kind of what the purpose of that function is gonna be, right? Um, so I know that's one indicator to tell which one you're on. And then if you could use the comment, but it's not really, um, what's the word? I guess it's kind of looked down upon, quote unquote. So,
This is it's your code.
yeah, so
You're a company,
yeah,
but.
Uh-oh.
you can't-
oh, I left something out. What did I leave out?
Oh, there's
Oh.
there's a weird thing that I'm sure you'll get to with the use client, whatever.
Yep,
So there will be comments at the top of your code, so that would be one reason not to use it, because Next does actually use that for something.
yes.
Don't worry about that today.
Right. I have a question.
Oh, I don't know how to spell. So to answer your question, so we're in a different folder and it's using a different layout, right? So it's using, so we still got the root layout, but now we're using the second folder's layout for that. So it's two different folders. They're in separate from each other, and so it's gonna use its own layout. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Any questions about that? Okay. So we'll go to another fun one. Do, 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 do.
Oh, it's not cool. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything.
So yeah. Oh. Let's clean this up, man. We can actually just delete those for demonstration purposes.
So this page, right, which is here in this. Yeah,
So this, my stuff, my new stuff is not.
is that slash introduction?
Okay.
So go back to the.
Okay, any questions about anything we just went over? Any questions, concerns? Anything you don't like about it?
That's.
The photo structures?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Eric.
I just. Maybe it's a job.
Take over each other.
So are you talking about in terms of like how the layout works?
Yeah, so like, I guess if you have the folder two inside folder one, but folder two doesn't have the layout, it takes on folder one. But if they're like outside of each other separate, and let's say folder two again doesn't have the layout, it takes on parents, like that main layout. Not folder one.
Exactly. If you think of it as like a
Now you can use.
of a hierarchy,
Uh-huh.
so like
That's gonna be.
when they're on the same level, they get their rule set from their parent. You can consider the parent, right? So they get their rule set from their parent. So when they're on the same level, but any children that they have, they get their rule, like their layouts, their rule set. So it's all like kind of like. That's why they call them like children. You can kind of think of it as like it's getting their DNA in a sense. So like that layout DNA is gonna get that structure from them. But if they have separate folders, then they're on the same level, so they're gonna be independent of each other unless you explicitly connect them in some way, shape, or form, right? So they're independent of each other and they're gonna have their own separate layout.
Can I show you something? It's like in this example. In the app layout, they would keep this right here, right, and then the square, cause that doesn't change. That's not, stays the same. So I would use, like, that's on the layout for the first app, is that correct? Like
So-
that, this, and then the whole rectangle and this right here, that's that never changes. So would that be on the first layout?
So that's actually handled, I'm not sure what framework he's using, but for next purposes, that will be handled through another method, and that's called parallel routing. So I'm not sure if they talk about it in the training as well. So let's see if I can remember this.
I don't want to get us in a sidetrack. It's not-
Yeah, so,
Yeah,
so it's, let me see, cause I'm not sure if it's gonna be something that we go over.
That is not like just like the image type.
Parallel routing is, so what parallel routing is essentially, it's instead of routing, like, so it'll still take the different, URL name, the segments, the route segments. However, it's going to render them on a section of the page instead of the full page, and it's gonna be part of is is essentially gonna be part of like a child, or yeah, they're essentially gonna be children. So I'll give you an example. It's better if I can. Well, so we have the app, so we'll have, let's say, we'll have our portfolio, but then we'll have the, let's say the about me. So this is if you're setting it up for a parallel routing. So they use a thing called slots, I believe, quote unquote, is represented with the at symbol, and you do not slot. You do about me, and then you would have let's see, the projects. So here, so these, since they're children of the portfolio, they're gonna be, instead of um routing to them explicitly, what is happening is you're gonna have your portfolio, which is gonna have the yes. Okay. Horrible at typing with this thing. So, I always forget the exact layout. Let me see if I can remember this. Does it take I don't know if it takes a children. No, it doesn't. Let's see. No. I'm trying to remember how it is handled. Let me see. We can look this up together. Always forget the exact syntax for it.
Then take this back, I put a picture of them slides.
Okay, yeah, it's handled in the layout folder. Okay. And we need to give them page. So they'll have their own wrong one. Oh, well, that's why I made them files. Oops. So they will be, it's a folder. And then they have their own.
Page and layout. View.
You can give them a layout. And honestly, I think you can even just, you don't even have to give them the crazy name. You can just give it layout if I remember correctly. But it's gonna have the children. So you would do why did I calculate? Boom, 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 boom. Let's see, how is it going to? Oh, let's see, how do we? Cause I'm not sure we have to import them. Okay, so yeah, we use them as props. That's the part I always forget too. We, I think that's just the,
You still need to use children and
yes, cause this is gonna be. So this is the layout. So you're gonna use your children because these parallel slots are gonna be um around your children. So if you were to have like if these were to be like we had like a dashboard, let's say like well I don't want to say dashboard because you could handle that here. But if you want to do like your children and then like under your children, you this is where you wanted your portfolio like you wanted your projects to show up, but then um when you go to different pages, you just wanted your projects to show up and be maintained there, then that would be a way to do it. And then let's see if I'm missing anything. So we'll go to this. So so we got the this is the root layout, and then we got the about me, and then the projects. So we were to do just for an example, we'll do project. And then I can show you how to do so there's a way we could do dynamic routes. Oh, but I'll show you that here in a second. I don't want to do too much at once. Bye. project. Then we got a page.
This
Now what did I break? Portfolio, right. So we got portfolio.
That's what you need routes. Okay.
What did I bring?
Well, whenever you want a new page, yeah. So if you want like slash conflict mirror, slash route, or whatever, that's what the form is. Okay. So really, since you're using the source, so right now.
Export default function project. Return. Div H2.
That's what.
That's an image, imagine.
Is the route. Okay. Yeah, source is like.
Save.
Also, into my browser.
Portfolio project.
Yeah. And when there's nothing in a folder, that's why it's on one line. So once you put something in an app, show the source in an app.
Let's see if I am forgetting something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still on this page. I don't wanna. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. We all off on a deep end up here.
Yeah, we deviated to something. Here it is.
Okay, so
This is the one that I'm back, so I'm asking, is this just like the name? And this right here doesn't change?
Yeah.
Anytime you go, so was that in the first layout? It's all the same. It's showing me the.
So we got I did say it.
Parallel routes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's why. I don't know why I thought that. That's why I didn't do that. Okay. So we did that. So now we got that. No, I did that. That's what I did. Am I messing myself up here? 'Cause we didn't do that.
So will this not just be a nav bar though? You can just click it, go to slash, whatever. Go to slash contact.
Mhm.
And it should be rendering that, but it is not.
That nav bar be on the layout? First layout for the app?
It'd be on the
So.
main page, yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
there's no right here, but,
Got it.
or the page, this one. Even if it doesn't change, well, it does change.
Let's bring in children. Yeah, we've got the layout there.
But when you choose one, it changes, well, it still be on the layout? or-
Yes.
Okay. So the main, this right here, choosing and then the whole format, right, the only thing that changes would be. This one.
Yeah, this is the portal.
This would be the new folders.
But it's, so it's gonna. So the,
It might be because
oh, shit, hit it full.
That's all?
Have you opened your segment?
they might need to be on a higher level. Let's try that. But to work, so it should to work. Okay, that's not what we want. It is fighting with me.
I thought it would be two separate kind of sections, because this component basically is the three rendering that's getting changed. This is something that
I think that's what he's looking for.
it's interesting though in the CSS that like that page content is
Everything.
everything. I thought it was
So is he just repeating or?
Is this in next to this?
Remember, this was the example that we grabbed on.
Were all those examples in next, or were they just random examples?
That I have pulled up?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was from Next. Yeah, I don't.
I think what I would do just to start these guys, new layout,
Mhm.
and then have like, contact form, whatever, both sides contact.
Yep.
And just keep that part to work, and then we can figure out how to actually show. Because this should show us.
That's why I was thinking is have exactly this on one, and the first layout, and then everything else in different folders.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense, yeah, that's okay, that is like. Cause yeah, so this is the layout, right, and then this is slash contact.
Correct.
Which is in the group layout still. Yeah, yeah. Makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
It's just wait, that's the rest one.
Yeah.
I just literally already forgot. Okay, for whatever reason it is,
Right. Wanted to copy it.
yeah, it's not liking me right now. I must have messed something up somewhere. Cause I got those. Oh. Okay. I'll get that figured out, but anyway, the main point, not even rendering project. Strength. Okay, yeah, I'll figure that out. I'll see why that's not working.
Okay.
But
Share it in the page.
yeah, yeah, I'll figure, maybe, I'm not sure what configuration, because it should have worked, but it's not even rendering our project page. For whatever reason. But, so we'll get that figured out.
Thank you.
Of course.
You got-
But anyway, so one of the big, positives about this is like, you can conditionally render, oops, either one of these, segments, these little, leaf segments or slots, and have them rendered, based on certain conditions as well. So that way, if, you only want to show a certain section, that was only rendered when they were logged in, that's something you can do as well. It gives you that flexibility. And then it's something that we also gonna get, more in-depth into later as well, as long, as we go down the line, when it'll be more relevant, because it'll be something that we can use within our project. But we're not at that point yet anyway. Yeah. So we'll come back to that though.
If you, for example, how you have the app, you have the about me,
Uh-huh.
the project, and then the portfolio. If you had, if you did like, if you open the about me,
Mm-hmm.
then you have in there, you have the page look, JS. Can you add a layout just on that, the layout? But
I want to,
side the about me, or would that mess up everything?
I want to say you can. I've never done it, because I have used parallel routing. S- and but I usually just go based off of because you're gonna handle, because it's gonna be a part of your, you're gonna be calling these in your layout component anyway.
One layout.
Yeah, so you really, but if you wanted, so, cause if, yeah, usually you just handle it by the whatever other layout, because then you would just be structuring it how you wanted it anyway, based like with the component itself for the most part. Mm, Let me see.
I guess the snow is just how you wanna set up the folder, publicly determine
Yeah,
the components you want to be in each, every other page. Not to change.
Oop. Okay, so yeah, so, and those only for, just give you an idea of how the parallel routing works anyway. Um, but so right now we'll just be focusing on our project layout, structuring our project, and then I know for the next class we'll be able to get a little bit more into that when we'll need it, and then we'll set up our app a little bit better with some more functionality. Because then if you are going to work on your app outside of class, I would recommend going ahead and installing. In fact, we can do that right now. So like, we can install our Daisy UI. You can go ahead, even though we're gonna be focusing on functionality right now, but if we were gonna create like our car components, we can go ahead and set them up, and we can do that with our Daisy UI. And then, so initially, like when you usually start off a project, you wanna go ahead and start off like setting it up for any packages, like especially like UI packages, if you're gonna bring in your UI packages, such as your icon package, um if you're not gonna be using the one that's already built into Next. I need to is it loose? I'm gonna get,
What's the React?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Which side, it's like LUCI.
Loose eyes. Something, yeah. Let's see. Oh, I can just check no matter. But yeah, so but if you're gonna be using anything outside that, you wanna go ahead and have your UI projects or your packages imported in, and then let's see. But so far, do we have any questions about Next, any confusions or anything like that?
I think it's figuring out the folder structure in the.
Mhm.
Foundation.
Yeah. The thing I would say do is just do it, just play around with it, start setting it up, see, cause like once you see what works and like what doesn't work, you get more accustomed to it. But we got about 20 minutes left, so we can spend the rest of the time just setting your application up, and then if you have any questions about anything, um we can address those, or if you need help with your application. Mhm.
I gave a company here.
Mhm.
We're building an app and a website and, they've been doing it for like a year. And they needed a new help on the front end. So it's like, yeah, I got some hours I can help you out. So I've started doing it last week, I think, and we're having a meeting and the product owner, yeah, was like spouting off all this, like, this thing's not working, this thing's not working, blah, blah. And I was like, do y'all write that down anywhere? And they were like, well, no, not really. And they're like, well, we have a Notion board, I guess we can put it on there. And I'm like, you have a GitHub account, that's where I pulled all the code from. Why not use that issues on
Yeah.
GitHub? Like, they figured it all out, let's just use that. But they were like, and I'm not the first developer on the team. I'm like, what are you doing?
I know it's crazy. Ain't it? I know everybody, cause I've been with our GitHub, I've been setting it up.
Yeah.
And everybody's been, oh, thank you for doing this. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
How are you not? Yeah.
yeah,
Crazy.
yeah, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
I know it's like the more places you go, the more I'm just like, oh wow.
Yeah.
I was like, I must have been taught really good, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Makes you feel good.
Yeah.
I don't suck. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So I ended up created some template, bug template, feature template, and all that on GitHub. Like, okay, I made a document, and I actually use Scribe. Have you used Scribe?
I'm not used to it.
So it's just like a click through, and then it makes kind of the outline for you, take screenshots.
Really?
It's pretty really cool. Yeah. I said the free one, but so I just basically clicked through making an issue,
Mhm.
and then it made the deal. I just kind of fixed some wording here and there.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look at it.
Yeah.
SCRIBED.
No D, no D in the end.
Oh, Scribe.
Scribe, yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And there's others. I think it's like Double or whatever is one. I think it's like Brios or something. But anyway, Scribe is good.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look into that for sure.
Yeah, so I made that one. And made the templates and was like, all right, here's what we're doing from now on.
Step by
We're
step.
gonna keep this organized.
I'm glad you showed. That's gonna, okay, that's
Yeah.
gonna be useful.
Yeah, indeed. And when we're
Cool.
with non-tech people. 'Cause
Yeah.
At first, product owner's name is Jason, he was like, I don't really know how to use GitHub. I was like, don't worry, you don't need to know all about it. All you need to do is just just click the little bug
Uh-huh.
button,
I
write the
know.
bug.
I wouldn't even like, I'm gonna like go over the CLI, but I'm definitely pointing them directly to the GUI. Yes.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
100%.
Yeah. It's so funny.
I know, that's pretty crazy.
They had so the front end guy that had it for me, he's got like 34 years experience or something.
Uh-huh.
But the reason they switched is because he just wasn't, it took him forever to do anything, right?
Mm.
And so I got and looked at it, and it's using a MUI material.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
I've never used it before, and I was looking at it, and it's very mature, right? So it's kind of old, but
And it's, yeah, and it's like Android
yeah.
focused.
Yeah. And he'd spent like the last year like creating a big design system so that they could do it. I was like, dude, we could just like split it up and like had stuff working. So
A whole year.
yeah, and just painted pages, right? And so he's like taking these pages from the designer and making the components, which is cool,
Uh-huh.
but I could have thrown that in VO or something and had you a page in 2 days. Like a working function.
Yeah. That,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm trying not to say that too loudly because I don't want him to say, okay, let's just start from the beginning, I'm like, we can work with what's here, it's fine.
So it's a whole year. So it makes me wonder like how much money was essentially wasted.
Well, he was paying 150 an hour. Yeah.
That's-
And this is just the front end guy, he's got the back end guy too. Which I'm working with the back end guy now, he seems very smart and
Uh-huh.
everything, but just, he's not a front end guy. So
uh-huh.
he's just like, I don't know how to work.
This was why, I don't know if I'm gonna hate to say this or not, but I guess this is why I like coding challenges
Mhm.
as part of like the hiring process,
Okay.
because I have fun doing it and it's like I get to actually showcase.
Right.
But then like I guess you kind of have an idea, like, you can kind of get a sense for these things early on,
Yeah,
depending on the person, I guess, but.
yeah. Well, yeah, Jason, the product owner, like he knows nothing about code. And I'm sitting there trying to like tell him to explain it. And he's like, I don't know what any of that means. Well, that's why you paid a lot of money for a year.
Yeah, you got like some type of proxy or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. I mean, that just, the fact that we're kids using Notion sheet. No,
It's just-
I mean, it's better than nothing.
that does not replace GitHub
No.
at all. All right, we got a couple minutes left. Any questions so far? How are y'all feeling about the start of your project, your portfolio project?
It's good, but I know I'll need help with the folder stuff.
Yeah. You'll get used to it. The best thing you can do is just trial and error with this and like trying to do stuff and then seeing it work, cause then you'll start getting more acclimated to it and you know what to expect, like seeing what works, cause it seems complicated, but once you start doing it more and more, like you'll really get the hang of it and you'll start to understand it pretty quickly. And then,
Probably never use direct The problem is, again, the trade-off with, if you're using an entire front-end, back-end framework of X. With React, though it's still large, it's just front end, so then you could add Node, Express on it if you wanted to, or even use like Python backend and stuff like that. With Next, like you're saying, it's my entire project right here, which is really cool, but at the same time, you're losing any sort of flexibility you might have later on.